Fred Hampton's assassination was the only assassination that was state sanctioned. And by that I mean it had the government planned it, approved it, and implemented it.
It is such an honor to talk today with Congressman Bobby Lee Rush. Right. We put the whole government name in there today for purposes of this moment. A few years ago, I found out some back history about him and another congressperson, Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. Mm-hmm. They were both a part of the Black Panther movement, Black Panthers, if you will. And there is a movie out now, and the movie is great. It's history. It's our history, the ugliness, the beautifulness of a community that was hurting and a group that wanted to fight for the community. We're talking about none other than the Black Panthers, and it depicts the life of Fred Hampton and also the FBI informant, William O'Neill. Now, Congressman, where were you in all of this? Did you watch all of this happen? I mean, it was shocking to me. I saw the beautifulness and the uplift of a community, but I also saw a traitor who informed the FBI and who really seemed like he was not part of a community at all, that a community that was hurting, a community that was getting help from the Black Panthers.
Let me begin by saying that this is a very important movie. This movie must be seen by all freedom-seeking, justice-seeking, good-hearted Americans, because it really is a movie that shows for all to see this brilliant, young, courageous Black man, Fred Hampton, who was an outstanding, courageous man, young man, who was a leader of men, even at 21 years old. And he had such a deep-seated love, even the sacrificial love, for his people, and not just Black people, but for poor people in general. Mm-hmm. Poor whites, poor Latinos, poor Asians. You know, Fred, he was just had such deep-seated human values, and that he just couldn't hold back, and he had to express. And Fred didn't just train himself to command the powers of oratory. He was a phenomenal speaker. He could move crowds because he trained himself to be that kind of a speaker. But he also, what he said, he believed, and he was a man who put words into action. And what he said, Fred had so much courage. There wasn't a dime or a sliver of difference from his pronouncement and his action. So Fred was such a pivotal personality, even at 21 years old, a genius, even at 21 years old, an organizing genius. And as a result of that, J. Edgar Hoover was the head of the FBI and had developed this counterintelligence program called COINTELPRO. And he viewed Fred Hampton as being someone who had the ability and the skills to become a mobilizing force in the nation and in the world. That's why he was killed. Because Fred was a threat to in J. Edgar Hoover's eyesight, to the reactionary forces of our nation. You know, the Black Panther Party in general was called by J. Edgar Hoover himself the number one threat to national security. And why was it the number one threat to national security? Well, because it was an organization that really was committed, that had the discipline to study and understand social movements in the past, and had the brilliance to go out and develop coalitions with Appalachian whites and Puerto Rican young activists and others, young whites, in order to try to change the heart and soul of this nation and to change the laws of this nation. We had the courage as an organization to stand and use the laws of this nation to take on the various police departments all across this nation, because we viewed the police as an occupying army that really trampled on the rights, the human rights and the civil rights, the legal rights of Black and poor people, just like they, in some instances, just like they do today.
I'm thinking about the time, and you talk about J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover was not a friend to the King family. He wasn't a friend to Malcolm X or Malcolm X's family. It seems like Fred Hampton was along that line of Black leaders who were a threat to the white power structure because he wanted to help the underserved.
Well, you're absolutely right. We started free breakfast for children program. In this nation, we had thousands of centers throughout the nation where young students, young people could come in before they went to school and get a nutritious breakfast. Not just, some candy bars and a pop, but they could get a full breakfast. Panthers would get up 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and go to their various sites and actually prepare breakfast, serve that breakfast to children. The only requirement is that they be hungry. And we wanted to raise the contradiction in this society about here we are, the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, but we still got young people, school children, going to school hungry. Let's feed them breakfast. That really was one of the reasons why the Panther Party was perceived by J. Edgar Hoover as being the number one threat to national security. I must say, as an aside, one of the things that I'm working on right now is to get his name, J. Edgar Hoover's name, off that FBI building. We're gonna take down Jefferson Davis's name, which should come down. Robert E. Lee's name should come down. But J. Edgar Hoover's name should come down also, because he was he spied and had in his crosshairs Dr. King and everybody in the civil rights movement, Rosa Parks, all of those were objects of J. Edgar Hoover's investigation, and so his name don't need to be honored by having it on a federal building.
That's news right there. And I know the effort has been going on for a long time to take his name down. And it's so interesting. I think about James Comey, no matter what you think about James Comey, but when he would bring in new recruits or new people in the FBI, he said what he would do he would take these people to the King Memorial to let them see what overreach looked like, pull up the King files and look and show them what overreach looked like. Right. And they would use that moment with Dr. King, but yet the name is still on there. I am very much with you on that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we got to get his name on. I don't know who we're gonna replace his name with, but maybe we should have a commission just to look at who we replaced the name with. But J. Edgar Hoover's name has got to come off that building.
So when we talk about J. Edgar Hoover, you cannot negate William O'Neill. I never, from the moment, and maybe it was the way he was depicted from the very onset, I never liked him in the movie.
O'Neill was able to endear himself to me, myself, and to other members of the Panther Party, and even to a great extent Fred, because O'Neill was cunning. The moment, you have to really be in the moment to really understand it. Here we were, some young people, 18, 19, 20. I think the youngest party member was 14 years old. But here we were young people, poor for the most part, not having any kind of economic or unemployed, just poor. And O'Neill had a car. He dressed nice. He was able, you know, some of us, the first time we had a meal in a decent restaurant other than in the downtown area, probably was because O'Neill had the wherewithal to take us to this restaurant. So he was able to endear himself because he was a street hustler. Fred was killed. The reality, and this doesn't come out in the movie, is the reality is that the night before Fred was killed, we had a meeting, a leadership meeting of the Illinois chapter, and we had said that we were going to, the leadership, that we were going to meet in Fred's apartment all night if we had to. So we were all supposed to be in that apartment, all right? And what happened was that there were other people who regularly lived in that apartment. We call them Panther cribs, all right? Who regularly lived in Panther cribs. And so by 11:30 that night, we found, well, where are we going to sleep? All right, and then we had visitors from out of the city, from Peoria and Rockford and other places in Illinois. These people had come into Chicago for a meeting, and there was no place for us to sleep. So those of us, myself, Chocolate Walls, Jewel Cook, we went to our own apartments, and that's the reason why we weren't killed in that apartment. But they came to my apartment the very next morning, December the 5th, shot my door down, and if I had not gone underground and had not I had my family moved out from in that apartment. We went underground. I went underground. I went to stay overnight. I stayed for a couple of days in the heart of upper class white Chicago on the Gold Coast, because I knew that the police were not going to raid the Gold Coast.
So you heard about Fred Hampton. You heard about them going into Fred Hampton's crib, his Panther crib, and shooting it up, and then you left, and they shot your place up in the morning?
Yeah, well, at about 4 o'clock this morning, and 4 o'clock on the early, about 5 o'clock on December the 4th, 5 a.m. in the morning, I got a call from a party member who lived about a half a block from Fred's apartment. She said, she told me that the police had blocked off the block. They had cordoned off the block around Fred's house. And so I called a couple other Panther members, told them to come by and pick me up. We went and I actually saw it was cordoned off, but we went to her basement. Her name was Barbara Sankey. We went to Barbara Sankey's basement, turned the radio on, and found out that there had been a shootout. And then we later discovered that they had killed Fred and Mark Clark. And we didn't know exactly whether or not anybody else had been killed. And later that morning, we found out that there were 7 survivors in that apartment. the first thing I did was call our lawyers, all right, and got them on the case, and they were able to find out, give us many more details about what had happened. But this was an assassination. You know, April, I know I'm kind of going on and on and on, but this is Fred Hampton's assassination was the only assassination that was state sanctioned. And by that I mean had the government planned it, approved it, and implemented it. Was the only state sanctioned assassination of an American citizen for a political reason on the soil of this nation. The only one, Fred Hampton's assassination. Abraham Lincoln's assassination was not a state sanctioned assassination. The Kennedys, neither one of them, Bobby or John Kennedy, was a state sanctioned assassination. Malcolm X was not a state sanctioned assassination. Dr. King's was not a state sanctioned assassination. Only Fred Hampton assassination was planned, implemented by the FBI, the director of the FBI, and with the full cooperation of the Cook County State's Attorney and the Chicago Police Department. The only one where there's a direct connection between the federal government and the assassination. The only one. And you can follow that because we know that there were people who J. Edgar Hoover not only gave bonuses to because Fred was killed, all right, complimented because Fred was killed, all right, and heralded by because Fred was, they actually gave money to O'Neill, gave him a bonus after Fred was killed. They came from the federal government, state sanctioned.
Sir, thank you so much. It's great. Thank you. This has been amazing.